Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. Here we are at the first video of Season 6, which is going to be all about the Planeswalker decks. We're going to start off by looking at the very first one, the very first set that had Planeswalker decks, which is Kaladesh, and we're going to start by looking at the Chandra Pyrogenius deck, which is red and white. Really, I'm just going to say now, going forward, it was so hard to actually find like decent quality images of the actual like boxes. So I'm really sorry we don't have the usual layout I have here of the box and the title and stuff. So yeah, really sorry about that. But anyway, let's have a look at the deck list. So we've got 17 creatures, 7 artifacts, 3 sorceries, 1 planeswalker, which is we're going to have 1 planeswalker in every one of these decks going forward. 7 instants and 25 land, and we've got a mana curve off to the side there. So let's start looking at this first planeswalker deck, which is it's very exciting, I think. Right, so let's just start off with the actual Planeswalker herself, Chandra, Pyrogenius. So this is the, as with all the Planeswalker decks, if you've not seen the intro video I've done for this season, basically all these Planeswalker decks have an exclusive version of the Planeswalker that you could only get in the Planeswalker deck, and they are very non-competitive. They are very, casual in terms of like design. They're quite straightforward. They're not that strong. They're usually quite expensive. Their effects are quite simple. But yeah, they're still Planeswalkers, and that's fine. And I suppose this is a good time to say I don't actually have too much experience playing with Planeswalkers, honestly. Just because at the time I was playing the most, Planeswalkers were kind of hard to get your hands on. The way I usually got my Planeswalkers was through the dual decks. And even that selection was kind of limited. So don't have a super huge amount of experience judging Planeswalkers, other than they're usually pretty good, and Tibble is rubbish, as we all know. But anyway, let's look at Chandra Pyrogenius. So 4 and double red. Comes in with 5 loyalty, and her abilities are her +2 does 2 damage to each opponent, which is alright. Her -3 does 4 damage to a creature, and her ultimate is -10 to do 6 damage to target player and each creature they control. So she's really straightforward. All she does is just damage. The most perfectly read design, I think, for one of these introductory sort of level planeswalkers. So she's obviously expensive, but she does what you need her to do. She just kicks out a load of damage. She doesn't have a lot of utility. She doesn't protect herself, which is like a big thing about planeswalkers. What makes a planeswalker good is that they can sort of protect themselves with tokens or whatever. But Chandra's fine, I guess. It's okay. Doesn't take what I think with all these. I'm going to talk a lot about maybe this Chandra in particular, and then we'll refine the process as we go forward. But one way I sort of judge planeswalkers is like how many turns it takes to get to their ultimate, and so Chandra takes you play a. And she goes up to 7 and 9. So you can't use her ultimate until the 4th turn of having her down, if presuming she doesn't get attacked. So that's one way I judge Planeswalkers. Say not a huge amount of experience playing them, but I think Chandra's basically okay. I'm not fond of this art, I will say, just because Chandra always looks weird when she doesn't have her head on fire. But yeah, this is fine. Right, so then we got Chandra's her suite of iconic spells, which again these are exclusive to the deck. So we've got 2 liberating combustions. So 4 and a red for a sorcery, does 6 damage to a creature, and then you can search your library or graveyard for a card named Chandra Pyrogenius, reveal it, put into your hand, and if you search your library, you shuffle. Again, if you didn't see the introduction video, I'm just kind of going over points here, but basically every one of these Planeswalker decks has 2 copies of the Planeswalker Tutor spell, which gets that specific version of the Planeswalker from your graveyard or library, which means if you need to find it, and why wouldn't you? The Planeswalker, they're the face of the deck. This is just another way of trying to deal them up. And all these spells have a fairly okay effect. 6 damage to a creature for 5 mana is not terrible, and when you throw a tutoring effect on top of it as well, it's basically okay. And then we've got 3 Renegade Firebrands, so 2 in red for a 3/2. As long as you control a Chandra Planeswalker, he gets +1/+0 and has first strike. So again, I'm not a super huge fan of these Planeswalker buddy cards, because I just think they're so conditional. Because you've only got 1 copy of Chandra in the deck. You've got the liberating combustions to find it out, but I just don't think they're that great, or I don't think they're worth taking up the uncommon slot. Because, okay, you've got Chandra, he's a 4/2 first strike for 3 mana, which is pretty good, but like that's relying on one card in the deck, and that is just going to be a theme on all these Planeswalker like buddy cards in all these Planeswalker decks. I think they're basically okay, but I don't think they should be uncommon. And then we've got 4 Flame Lash, 3 in a red, instant speed, does 4 damage to target creature player. This is basically just a reskin of the classic Lightning Blast. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine having 4 of them. You know, it's nice that you get a full play set of them, and it's like fairly, you know, solid burn. Like 4 damage is pretty good. So yeah, this is perfectly fine. So now we get onto the rest of the cards from the deck. So yeah, it's not all Chandra. It's still Kaladesh, so we're still going to like dip into like the themes and mechanics and cards of that set. This is going to be another thing, actually. I didn't mention it in the introduction video, but like, sort of the thing with the Planeswalker decks is like, they're obviously really nice, you know, to have like this kind of theme around a particular Planeswalker. But the thing is, so we had Chandra, we had the 2 search spells, we had her 3 buddy cards, and we had the 4 like common, you know, the Flame Lash and stuff. That's how many? Why can't I do maths? That's like 10 cards. That's 10 cards taken out of the, you know, like the 36, 35. So we actually don't have that many kind of cards from the set to work with, and again, that is just going to be a theme going forward. That it's going to feel a bit light on the ground in what we've actually got to work with. Anyway, let's get into it. So yeah, it's a red-white deck. So the kind of the red-white theme draft archetype in Kaladesh was vehicles. Not to not to the extent I would expect it to. Like there's really weren't that many kind of like vehicle tribal effects. This is basically it. These 3 here. So we've got 2 veteran motorists, red and white for a 3/1. When he enters the battlefield, you scry 2, which is okay. And when you cruise a vehicle, he gives that vehicle +1/+1 till end turn. So that's okay. That's okay, I think. You know, at the very least, it's 2 mana for a 3/1 that scries you 2. And you've got a decent number of vehicles in the deck, so this is okay. And then this is really disappointing. We only got 1 each of Gearshift Ace and Speedway Fanatic. So Gearshift Ace, 1 white for a 2/1 first strike, which is, I mean, that's okay. And when you cruise the vehicle gains first strike till end turn, which is okay. Like a lot of the vehicles have really high power, so that makes them really difficult to deal with. But only 1 of him. And same with Speedway Fanatic, 1 in a red for a 2/1 with haste, which again is like perfectly fine. And when you cruise a vehicle, that vehicle gains haste until end turn, which is, you know, you drop your big vehicle and then you can immediately swing with it if the Fanatic cruise it. But like, it's really annoying that these are uncommon and we've only got 1 copy of them each. Like, I really would have liked, you know, to have like 2 or 3, maybe even 3 of these each. But it's just annoying that they're uncommon because the effects are really good and it's really key to like making, I don't know, vehicles just better, you know. But yeah, this is like pretty much the only 2 cards that like give bonuses, well, with the veteran motorist as well. These are new rule cards that like give bonuses to vehicles when they crew them, which is, I think, like a really huge untapped design space, which like I don't feel they did too much with in Kaladesh. I mean, because I guess there was energy as well, and that was taking up a lot of room. I don't know. We'll see energy in the next deck. That's what Nissa's deck is all around, themed around. So then we've got 2 Spyoside Infiltrators, 2 in a red for a 3/2. We're definitely getting to the point now where we're at the point of like 3 mana for like 3 2s or 2 3s. Like we're now firmly in that sort of section now. This stat line is going to become a lot more common going forward now. So Spyoside Infiltrator, when he becomes tapped, does 1 damage to each opponent, which is like fairly solid. Goes well with like crewing the vehicles because you tap into crew and then he's become tapped. He does 1 damage, or you just attack with it because why wouldn't you? It's a 3/2, so it does the extra damage there. So kind of interesting on a I was going to say like a ping ability. It's not really a ping ability because it can't hit creatures. But yeah, I think Spyoside Infiltrator is fairly solid. Quite like that. We've got 2 Trusty Companions, 1 in a white for a 3/2 with Vigilance, which is, you know, pretty good stat line, but it can't attack alone. I mean, it's kind of red, white, go wide, like aggro weenies, you know, fairly standard red, white. So really rare for this to be on its own, I suppose. Of course, the nice thing is that it's got pretty high power, so even if it can't attack for any reason, it can get in a car. You can get your hyena to drive a car. You can do that. So it's okay, I think. And then we've got 2 aerial responders. So 1 and double white for a 2/3 with flying, vigilance, lifelink. So this is basically the white vampire Nighthawk. It's just trading out death touch for vigilance. Really, really solid, honestly, just for 3 mana. It's a lot going on. Very efficient little package here of keywords and a stat line. Yeah, really like aerial responder. Really good. Then we've got a single Brazen Scourge, 1 and double red for a 3/3 with haste. Yeah, it's fine. Just very, again, why is it uncommon? That is that's really depressing. That's uncommon. But yeah, it's fine. Single Skyswell Harrier, just 4 and a white for a 3/4 with flying, sure, whatever. And then a single Snare Thopter, 4 colours for a 3/2 with flying and haste. Again, absolutely fine. So there's a fair number of things with haste in here, I suppose. Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. And a single World-Fast Monitor, 3 mana for a 3/2. You can pay red to give it Menace into then turn, which is, again, that's okay. That's fine, isn't it? It's just, some nice common chaff filler. Right, let's go on to the vehicles. So these were introduced in Kaladesh. They've popped up in a few sets since, mostly, what do I want to say? I want to say there was a few in Ixalan. There was a few in... obviously, there was a load in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I think they've sort of like been spotted in and out throughout different sets, though. But Kaladesh introduced them, and it was like a kind of a major theme. So if you're new to the game, or phased out and you weren't paying attention to this point of the game, so a vehicle is an artifact, comes in. You pay it, whatever. So it's you have to crew it for it to turn into a creature, and then it can attack, and then obviously it's got its creature type and its power, toughness, and its abilities. So Sky Skiff, you pay 2 mana, and it just sits there. It does nothing until you crew it for 1. So crew 1 means you tap a number of creatures which you control, which have total power 1 or more, and it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. And then it's a 2/3 flyer, and you can swing with it. So it's a really good way of getting value out of kind of weaker creatures who maybe can't swing. It is like kind of this risk reward thing, because you are essentially spending a resource. You're spending another creature, you're tapping them to get a bigger creature out, essentially. So you're kind of sinking resources there. But I think Vigil's pretty cool, but because they're so dependent on having to be crewed, you can really push the bar in kind of what stats they have for their mana cost. So the Sky Skip being only 2 colourless for a 2/3 flyer is obviously pretty good, but obviously you got to have a creature out to be able to crew it. And that is, kind of a theme going forward. Overall, I think vehicles are okay. I, again, don't have a huge amount of experience playing with them. I'd sort of built sort of a blue-white, because vehicles were the blue-white archetype in Neon Dynasty, and I built sort of a deck around that. I found them personally a little bit clunky to use, but I'm sure they're fine. Maybe I was just playing them wrong. But yeah, I think Sky Skiff's absolutely fine. I think all the vehicles are actually basically completely fine. My one gripe, which I'm going to say now about vehicles, I don't think you should be able to use vehicles to crew other vehicles. I really wish it was tap any number of non-vehicle creatures, because that's silly. I know this is a game where we can have birds swinging around swords and hammers and stuff, but no, that's silly. I'm not having a vehicle crew a vehicle. So yeah, there we go. That's my word on it. So then we've got 2 Renegade Freighters, so 3 mana for an artifact vehicle. It's a 4/3, and when it attacks, it gets +1/+1 against trample in turn, and it's crew 2. So I mean, 3 mana for a really, really chunky stat line. It's a 5/4 when it attacks with trample, and to do that, all you got to do is crew it for 2, which is pretty easy. You got a lot of fairly beefy creatures in here. And say with the Speedway Fanatic and the Gear Shift Ace, this could have haste, so you could swing the turn you play it. It could have first strike, and it could be a real pain. So it is a real shame that we don't have more of those pilot cards. Single Bomat Bazaar Barge, so 4 mana. When it ends battle, you draw a card, so at least you get some benefit out of it, even if you can't, crew it immediately. But crew 3 and it becomes a 5/5. So yeah, just a big 5/5 beta. That's fine. An Oval Chase Dragster, so 4 mana for a 6/1 with trample and haste and crew 1. So yeah, this is obviously something that you really want to give the you want to get the Gear Shift Ace to it, so it's a 6/1 first strike, and then it's a real nightmare to deal with. It's nice it's got haste though. This is essentially actually this and the Fleetwheel Cruiser are kind of the vehicle equivalent of Ball Lightning, I suppose, because comes down, it's super cheap to crew. It can attack immediately because it's got haste, it's got trample. So yeah, think of this as a car version of Ball Lightning. Same with kind of Fleetwheel Cruiser here. So 4 mana, has trample and haste, and it automatically crews itself essentially. When you play it, when it ends the battlefield, it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So you get to swing with it sort of straight away, even if you haven't got anything else to crew it with. So I think that's actually pretty interesting design that can just immediately drive off. It's one of the rares of the deck as well. I should sort of say with these rares as well. So the Planeswalker tutor spells don't count towards the number of rares. So technically, we're getting 4 rares now in these Planeswalker decks because we get the 2 copies of the tutor spell and then 1 copy of each of 2 other rares. So there we go. But yeah, I think all these vehicles are basically completely fine. So then we get into the other non-creature spells. So we've got a single Cathartic Reunion, so 1 in a red. As additional cost to cast it, you have to discard 2 cards and you draw 3 cards. So it's not card draw really, because you're essentially using 3 cards to draw 3 cards. I think it's fine. It's okay. Drawing. I was going to say you're drawing 3 cards for only 2 mana. I mean, you're not. You're drawing 3. You're drawing 3 cards for 2 mana and discarding 2 other cards. But yeah, you got like a fairly low-ish mana curve, I suppose, in the deck. So like this is a good way of just getting rid of lands that you just don't need anymore. So it's fine, I suppose. We've got 2 built to last, 1 white mana. Target creature gets +2/+2 to end turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gets indestructible to end turn. So this is actually quite nice for keeping some of the more frail vehicles. You've got like the Oval Chase around just for an extra long, and it's a buff spell anyway. And you're playing red-white kind of aggro. Everyone appreciates a buff spell. And then the other is Fateful Showdown. So 2 in double red. Does damage to target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand. Then you discard all the cards in your hand and draw that many cards. So it's kind of like a I don't know, because it's fine. Like it's okay, I suppose. But like you're playing red white at a time where like red white was just doesn't have card draw. Like you got the Cathartic Reunion, but that's not card draw. You're just swapping 3 cards for another 3 cards. So you don't have a lot of card draw, I feel, to like really get advantage of this, I suppose. I'm not. I don't know. Like to make this good, you've got to like really not be playing your cards, which is not great. And then I don't know. I guess it's fine. But like I'm not super keen on it. And like it's it's a wheel effect as well, which like can be good, but like if it was like discard any number of cards and then draw them so you could filter things out a little bit. I'm not super keen on it, but this is where someone is in the comments going to be like, Fateful Showdown was actually really good in Vintage, and then I'll look like a fool, but I always do, so joke's on you. Anyway, and then we've got 4 Stone Quarries, which comes in play tapped and gives you red or white, and then 11 Mountains and 10 Plains. So, yeah, we're back to doing what could have been. So we're going to do that for Planeswalker decks as well. So I think like a really big miss in here was not having Start Your Engines, because this is like the deck designed for it, almost. So Start Your Engines, 3 in a red. All your vehicles become artifact creatures end turn for free, so you don't have to crew them. And creatures you control get +2/+0 to end turn. So, it's a board-wide buff, and it turns all your vehicles, it automatically crews all your vehicles, so your other creatures don't have to crew them and can get the benefit of this buff as well. So, like, really, I think really big missed opportunity that at least one of these wasn't in here. Then we've got Built to Smash, which is the opposite to Built to Last. So 1 red mana, attacking creature gets +3/+3 to end turn. If it's an artifact creature, gets trampled to end turn. Just another really good buff, and you got a really good number of artifact creatures in here, so that could have gone really well. And then just another vehicle that wasn't included, Ballista Charger, so 5 mana, so it is a bit more expensive, but it is a 6/6. When it attacks, it does 1 damage to target creature or player, so it does a little ping, and it's crew 3. And I just would have been nice, I think, just have another vehicle, just have a load of vehicles in here. But that I say, that is reliant on having more of those kind of cool, like pilot creatures that like give vehicles extra benefits when they crew them and stuff, or I don't know. But it's okay. It was like the first time vehicles were in the game, so I guess there was some sort of like hesitation or experimentation with what works with them, and vehicles I think got done a lot better in Neon Dynasty when they obviously had a bit more experience in designing them. But yeah, overall I think sort of okay. But definitely Start Your Engines, I think, should have been here, definitely. Okay, so that was Chandra Pyrogenius, the first Planeswalker deck we looked at. If you got any thoughts or comments or stories, opinions about the deck, or if you got any thoughts, like what do you, what's your opinion on, like, say, vehicles? Like, I'd really like to know what people think about vehicles, because obviously introducing any kind of new card type into the game usually has its own kind of discussion around it, so I'd really like to know what you thought of vehicles. Put a comment down below. Really nice to be back and doing these videos. So yeah, stick a comment below, I'll give those a read, but I'll be back next time, go look at the second Kaladesh Planeswalker deck. So until then, thanks for watching, listening, and have a great day.